Hello, I'm Wendy. Today I'm looking at Christmas card ideas and painting some snowy rose hips in watercolour. I'm working on Saunders Waterford knot paper, and the size of this paper here is about 11 inches by 8 inches. I put the two drawings on because I was working them initially on the same sheet of paper. I find if I use pieces of paper that are half this size, quite small, then they do cockle, and so I do like to work on a slightly bigger sort of piece of paper when I'm working to prevent this cockling. So I'm working on the two together initially, the very wet into wet washes, and then later on I cut them in half and then work on them individually. The design I used was inspired by this photograph that I took earlier in the year of the rose hips. I love the way they were dangling down on the branches, and I thought that's a nice arrangement, and so I did this little drawing. Now you can use this photograph to work out your own drawing or clearly from photographs of your own, but for this exercise then, painting this Christmas card, I wanted to keep a very simple design, and I wanted to reproduce it so I didn't have to draw it every time. I did one top copy which I then traced, and I used a light box to trace it. If you don't have a light box, you can use tracing paper, even hold it up against the window to trace it, and this means you don't have to do that drawing over and over again, and you can concentrate on the painting and do lots of experimental work with paint and salt. I masked out the rose hips, and I will give you a link to how to use masking fluid if you're not familiar with it, but if you follow my channel you'll know that I do use it quite a lot, and I have got a couple of videos at least that will explain the best way to use it. I've applied PBO drawing gum, and there's a link in the description box because I like that the best of all the masking fluids that I've used. And then when it was totally dry, I'm putting a background wash on the rose hips. I damp the paper first with clean water, and then I'm basically just experimenting with a few colours. I don't always show my mixing, but I am doing here so that you get a really clear idea. It's a step-by-step video, so I'll show you all the different steps that I do during the process. It's very experimental, this. You can't do anything wrong, basically. You just want to mix up some colours that you like to put behind the rose hips. I am using a very bright yellow. I think it's cadmium yellow. I mixed some of them, I made changes sometimes. Or New Gamboge is a nice bright yellow that you can use. And I'm mixing it with indigo, which I'm using at the moment for my greens. I think the important thing on the background is to make sure you've got not only the colour changes there, but also changes in tone, so that you're getting some lights and darks in there. I think people who are just starting watercolour particularly have a great difficulty in mixing darks in watercolour. I have spoken about this before. I think the best thing to do really is to make a big pool, as you can see here, as dark as you can, and instead of spreading the colour out, drop the colour in and keep reloading your brush so that you're adding lots and lots of paint in there. I'm adding a little bit of red here, as you can see, just to maybe suggest that there were rose hips in the background. And here again I've got, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm using this very, very dark paint. I'm not spreading it around, putting it in different areas, reloading the brush, putting some more on so it doesn't get diluted out. Because remember, your watercolour is going to dry back at least 40%. And I'm adding salt. How much salt you add is certainly up to you, and how wet the background is up to you. This is experimenting. If you have a very wet background, you'll get very diffuse salt effects that are almost like looking like blizzards of frost and salt in the environment, which can look really nice. And I would suggest experiment with the salt, experiment with the wetness of the background and how much you're putting on, and then use whatever you've got for your final painting, because you might think it looks a real mess, but the messier backgrounds do work out the best, generally. This next painting I worked in exactly the same way. I've speeded it up ×4 because it can get a little bit boring otherwise, I think. I felt I wanted to have a bit more of that nice yellow in there, and it was New Gamboge, Cotman New Gamboge, which is a lovely colour and is inexpensive. And then I dropped in again some of the greens, trying to make them a little bit darker in places. It's a good idea. I tend myself to get things a little bit too samey, so try and get the lights and the darks in there and the different colours as best you can. The good thing about this is you can do lots and lots of them and experiment. This was how they dried. It does take a while for the salt effects to work. I would say leave them at least an hour. This is why it's a good idea to work on more than one, so you can have 1 or 2 drying while you're working on your current ones. And as a tip, you see the little blobs of paint on the rose hips themselves. That can stay very wet. So I usually just, if it is a bit damp, just dab it off with a tissue, because before you rub the masking out, you want that absolutely dry. Otherwise that paint will spread out onto your rubber and then onto your picture. Occasionally you can miss some spots when you're putting on the masking fluid, and normally it's not too much of a problem. You're painting over them, and we're not doing a botanical painting or anything. It's quite experimental sort of techniques, and little dots don't matter. But if they bother you, then just use a damp brush and you can pull out the paint quite easily. And also you probably find you may have to reinforce a little bit of the drawing as well. When I'm painting things like these rose hips and berries, then I don't like to put on just one flat colour. I like to put on a couple of colours here, and the rose hips themselves can vary from quite orange to bright red, depending on the photograph that you've used or the sort of berries that are growing. I don't know, they do vary. I like to have some of the orange in there, so I put an undercoat of cadmium orange, and then I do a wet into wet red into that orange, as you can see here. Now this last one I did worked out quite well, and I think this one does. So the orange is going on. Because I paint quickly, I do tend to work on more than one at a time. But if you work a bit more slowly and not as experienced, then just work on one. And then drop the red in like this, and then just leave it so that it blends into the orange, and that works out quite nicely, I think. And another one here. I would let that one dry before you did the berry behind, so that they don't blend into each other. Now the two at the bottom that I did first, I felt they were a little bit flat. So what I'm doing here is maybe adding a little bit more red to give a slightly different tone in them. And also damp brush, you can pull out some of the paint to give more of a highlight. And I do like to put a mount around things sort of at this stage, just to see how it's starting to look. This is the stage when I get rid of that white that I masked out with the masking fluid. I used a very old rigger for that to give a very fine line. And again, I didn't want one colour, one flat colour. So I'm putting on a bit of burnt sienna first, and then you'll see I use a darker mix, which would be burnt sienna with ultramarine. And then I place that in different positions on the twigs, so that you get varied marks then, and you get varied wet into wet and 1 or 2 hard edges. And I'm just sort of placing it on one side of the branch, just for interest, rather than having everything the same. You could draw the same colour line on there, but it wouldn't be as interesting. And so again, practice a bit, vary it, depending on your picture, the colours and the tones you've got beneath, then make the lights and darks match that. I don't know what these little black leafy bits are on the end of the rose hips. They've certainly got a name. I can't think of it at the moment, but they make all the difference, don't they, to your painting? It really starts bringing it to life. And I used a rigger because I didn't want them to be too straight. Again, I wanted to add a bit of variety, a bit of randomness to them, and using a rigger, then I think you can get that effect a bit better than using a very small little brush. And of course the rigger holds a lot of paint, so you can do all of them almost with one brush load of paint. Again, it's nice to put a little mount around it to see how the painting is shaping up. And you can see that that background was really, really messy. It was, I think it might have been the first one. There was a lot of water in the background, but it did give you those nice sort of blizzardy effects. I'm using Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, and there's a link in the description box. It's not cheap, but it lasts a long time and it is extremely opaque. I think a lot of us watercolourists struggle with getting a very opaque white. White designer gouache works very well, and I do use that. I don't particularly like using acrylic, which would work, but this ink is really, really good, and I would recommend it. As I said, I have put a link down there for you. It does last a long time. So I've speeded the next bit up because it is very repetitive. Putting this, I suppose it could be frost, but I think of it more as bits of snow on there. I think it's best to not overdo it. I think put a little bit on each berry and then stand back and see what you think before you put any more on, because I've done one or two of these and really overdone the snow effect. And as you can see, I put a little bit on the branches as well, just in places again, not a straight line of white going down them, just in places. Now I'm going to show you a couple more that I did. I did in actual fact do several of these. Some worked out a lot better than others, but I felt I wanted to maybe, the others were sort of greens and reds, a bit yellow. I felt maybe I could introduce some blue, which could stand for sky and maybe be a bit wintry. So I put some ultramarine or cobalt in there and used the same greens and yellows that I did before. This one is quite wet and probably will turn out a little bit lighter than some of the others because of that, because it's so runny. Yes, I remember this now. It got very wet, and you can, as I am doing, you can move the paper around to stop it puddling. The trouble with, you can work this wet, it's fine, but the trouble with it is if you do move the paper around to get rid of the puddles, then all the paint can merge together and it can end up a little bit samey. But I thought you might like to see that it is quite interesting. Sometimes, yeah, I use a tissue just to pull a little bit out if it's really puddling. You can leave it, let it dry a bit, and then put some thick paint in there. As long as the watercolour is wet, you can, well, I'm not going to say fiddle, but you can actually, you know, fiddle around with it if you like a bit. It's when it starts getting dry or half dry and you're adding paint, that's when you run into problems. But you could work on this for a long time. I think with hindsight, I should have left it longer so it dried a bit, put some thicker paint in there. But who knows, it might turn out to be the best one. I don't think it was, but it could have been. And the salt here is going to work quite well, I think, on the background. And this is the last one that I'll be showing you. Again, it's speeded up. I think I felt I wanted to have a bit more of the yellow in there and not make it quite as wet. which I think is the way that it worked now. There isn't a lot of puddling or anything in this one. You can see the other one on the right drying. Both of these were quite pale. The background washes were quite pale, as you can see. So you don't always have to put those strong darks in there. So what I suggest is when you're doing these, do several of them, do some paler, but do make an effort to mix up some of those real darks in there. And if it's going to be dark green, then put them behind the berries so that the berries stand out. And a final little bit of salt on this one as well. This was my very puddly one, which I felt was the least successful of some of the ones that I did. But I didn't want to just discard it, and I thought that maybe a bit of white splatter to stand for snow falling might work. And so I used some of the white ink, the Dr. Martens ink, and did a little bit of splattering. I felt it needed diluting a little bit, just a little bit of water. I generally use that ink neat, but it needed a little bit of water to do the splattering. It's not working brilliantly well, but I think I managed to get some on there. I'm not the best splatterer. Some bigger sort of snowflakes, just done with the tip of the brush, I felt wouldn't come amiss. And I think it works. I think it adds a bit more interest and something else going on there, and livens up the background, which was a little bit samey and a little bit dull. So that's something that you can do on some of yours if you want to as well. More ideas. I'm showing some of these finished paintings in 8x10 mounts with a 6x4 image. A 6x4 image would work okay for a Christmas card. You could use it in an aperture card, or you could cut it out and stick it onto a card. I thought that size suited this particular image, but remember you can chop them down to make smaller images, to make smaller cards. You can use aperture cards around the part of the image that you like the best. So there's lots of ways you can use these finished paintings to make them into Christmas cards, or also to give them as a gift in a mount as I've presented them here. I hope you found the video useful and informative, and that you have a go experimenting with rose hips and salty backgrounds. Remember, you can post your results on our Facebook page, and I will always get back to you, so don't be shy. If you do like my channel, then if you've not all done so already, then do subscribe, and I look forward to doing another video for you very soon. Bye for now.